The cabin sat deep in the woods, tucked between towering pines and the edge of a quiet lake. It wasn't grand, just sturdy, built from logs weathered by decades of rain and snow. But it was mine. After years of service, of constant noise, orders, and deployments, I'd finally found solitude here. The mornings were filled with the call of loons on the water, the evenings with the whisper of wind through trees. For once I had peace, at least until she showed up. It started with the crunch of gravel under tires. That sound didn't belong here. The road was private, barely used except by me. Peering out from the porch, I saw a shiny SUV pull up. Out stepped a woman dressed far too neatly for the woods. Pressed blouse, oversized sunglasses, phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. The type of neighbor I'd hoped to avoid. She spotted me instantly and marched forward with the confidence of someone who assumed the world bent to her will. "Excuse me," she snapped, as though my cabin were a retail store and I an employee. "What are you doing here?" I raised an eyebrow. "Living. What are you doing here?" "This is private property," she declared. "I know the owners, and you don't belong." Suppressing a laugh, I leaned against the porch railing. "Ma'am, I assure you I do belong. This cabin's mine." She scoffed, already dialing her phone. "We'll see what the police think about that." I sighed. So this was happening. Within 15 minutes, the sound of sirens cut through the forest. A patrol car pulled up beside her SUV, lights flashing red and blue against the trees. Out stepped a uniformed officer, tall and young, adjusting his belt as he approached. The woman, Karen, as I later learned, rushed to him like a triumphant plaintiff. "Officer, thank goodness. This man is trespassing. He broke into this cabin, and I demand he be removed immediately." The officer turned his gaze on me. I expected irritation, maybe suspicion. Instead, his expression shifted in an instant. His eyes widened slightly before narrowing in focus. He straightened, boots clicking together. Then, to everyone's shock, he raised his hand in a sharp salute. "Major General," he said firmly, his voice filled with respect. Karen froze mid-sentence, her jaw dropping. "What?" she spluttered. "What did you just call him?" I returned the salute calmly. "At ease, officer." The forest was silent except for the birds, as Karen's certainty crumbled. She had called the law expecting vindication, but the law had saluted the man she thought was an intruder. Karen blinked rapidly, clearly trying to make sense of what had just happened. The officer, calm, collected, and suddenly deferential, stood in front of me as though awaiting orders. It wasn't the reaction she'd expected, and her confidence wavered. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Did you just salute this man? He's trespassing. You're supposed to arrest him." The officer didn't even look at her. His attention remained fixed on me, posture straight, tone respectful. "Sir, it's an honor. I didn't expect to find you out here." Karen's face flushed red. "What on earth are you talking about? He's a squatter. He looks like some mountain hermit." I let the moment hang before speaking. "Officer, I believe this woman is under the impression that she knows more about my property than I do." The cop finally turned toward Karen, his expression neutral but edged with irritation. "Ma'am, I know exactly who this man is. He's not trespassing. This is his cabin." Karen's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. How could he?" She stopped, gesturing wildly at me, as if my worn flannel shirt and boots were evidence of guilt. "This place is too valuable to belong to someone like him." The officer's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, with respect, you need to lower your voice. You don't understand the situation." "Oh, I understand plenty," she snapped. "He's manipulating you somehow. You don't just salute random people in the woods." I sighed, folding my arms. "She's not entirely wrong. You don't salute random people." I gave the officer a small nod. "But you and I both know it's been a long time since I wore the uniform." The young man's eyes flickered with admiration. "Even so, sir. Once a leader, always respected. Men like me don't forget what men like you did." Karen sputtered. "Leader? Respect? This is insane." You're telling me this backwoods stranger is some kind of general? The officer looked her dead in the eye. Major General. Retired, yes, but decorated beyond measure. I learned about him in training. Karen staggered back as though struck. That can't be true. I let her stew in silence for a moment before speaking. Karen, was it? You thought calling the police would embarrass me. Instead, you've embarrassed yourself. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she hissed. I don't care who you are. People like you don't belong in this neighborhood. You don't fit. The officer took a sharp step forward. Ma'am, you need to stop right there. You're treading on dangerous ground. But Karen wasn't finished. Her pride wouldn't let her back down. Not yet. Karen crossed her arms, her chin jutting out defiantly, as if doubling down could erase her mistake. I don't care if you call him a general or a king, she spat. He doesn't look like someone important. People like him don't own places like this. You're being fooled. The officer's patience thinned. Ma'am, I am not being fooled, and I suggest you watch your tone. She turned her glare on me. If you're really who you say you are, prove it. Show me some kind of ID. Otherwise, I'll assume you're lying. I could have laughed, but instead I walked calmly back into the cabin. A few moments later, I returned with a leather case worn smooth with age. Opening it, I revealed a series of documents. Military identification, medals, and a commendation letter stamped with the insignia of the highest command. The officer leaned closer, his eyes widening. That's the Distinguished Service Medal, he said reverently. And the Legion of Merit. Sir, I didn't realize. Karen tried to peer over his shoulder, but her ignorance showed in her sneer. So what? Fancy papers and shiny trinkets don't mean he owns this land. This land was given to me, I explained evenly. Granted as part of a veterans program. I served long enough to earn it, and I paid for the rest myself. No one but me holds the deed. The officer nodded firmly. That's the truth. And you, ma'am, are trespassing. Karen's face flushed a furious red. Trespassing? Me? I was protecting the neighborhood. I raised an eyebrow. By barging onto my property and calling the police? She faltered, but pride shoved her forward. People like you lower property values. This was a nice community before folks like you dragged it down. The words echoed bitterly in the stillness of the forest. Even the officer looked stunned by her audacity. You should be careful, I said quietly, my voice carrying more weight than volume. I've commanded men who would lay down their lives without hesitation. Not because of rank or medals, but because they trusted me. And you? You don't even trust the truth when it's staring you in the face. For the first time, Karen wavered. Her bravado cracked just enough for her eyes to flicker with doubt. But her pride still clung to the last thread. I don't believe it, she muttered. The officer's voice hardened. Believe it or not, ma'am, it's fact. And if you keep harassing this man, you'll be the one facing charges. Karen's jaw snapped shut. She glanced between us, fury and humiliation battling in her expression. But now she knew, whether she admitted it aloud or not, that she had picked a fight she could not win. The silence hung heavy between us, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Karen's confidence had drained away, leaving behind only bitterness. She looked around as though searching for support, but the forest offered no allies. Finally, she snapped, This is ridiculous. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. You should be thanking me, not ganging up on me. The officer shook his head. No, ma'am. What you did wasn't protection, it was harassment. You saw a man minding his own business and assumed the worst. And you called law enforcement to enforce your prejudice. That's not protection. That's abuse of emergency services. Karen opened her mouth to retort, but he raised a hand. Enough. If I get another call like this from you, there will be consequences. Do you understand? Her face burned crimson, but she gave a stiff nod. Fine. Whatever. With that, she turned on her heel, stormed back to her SUV, and slammed the door. Gravel sprayed as she sped off down the road, leaving only a cloud of dust behind her. The officer exhaled slowly, then turned back to me, his demeanor softening instantly. "Sir, I apologize for the disturbance. Some people don't know when to keep their noses out of others' business." I offered him a small smile. "You did your job. More than that, you showed respect. That's rare these days." He looked almost embarrassed. "Respect is the least I can give. Men like me get to wear this uniform because men like you paved the way. I studied your campaigns at the academy. The strategy at Norin Pass, the evacuation at Rydell Station. You saved thousands. It's not just history to us. It's a standard to live up to." His words caught me off guard. For years, I had lived quietly in this cabin, distancing myself from the life I once knew. To me, those battles were memories heavy with loss. To him, they were lessons, examples of courage and leadership. "Funny thing about history," I murmured. "To the ones who lived it, it's just survival. To those who study it, it's legend." The officer straightened again, pride in his eyes. "Legend or not, sir, it matters. And people like her," he gestured toward the road where Karen had vanished, "will never understand what you gave up so that she could live in comfort." I nodded slowly. "And that's all right. She doesn't need to understand. As long as the next generation does." He saluted once more, crisp and sharp. "Thank you for your service, Major General." I returned the salute, then waved him off. "Drive safe, officer. And don't waste your breath on people who can't see past their own pride." As his patrol car disappeared into the trees, I leaned back against the porch railing, the forest settling into quiet once more. Peace had returned, fragile but real. Karen had tried to strip me of dignity, but instead she'd been the one unmasked. Respect wasn't demanded by title, nor proven by wealth. It was earned through deeds. And no matter how far I retreated into these woods, that truth would follow me.